Okay, so chapter 9, section 5, it starts to get interesting here. We're going to begin factoring trinomials. X squared plus bx plus c. That little underline is just something the system automatically did. I was just trying to underline the title of this section. Okay, so you don't have to underline your little superscript there. It's just what this program did. So recall two binomial factors, this expression, x plus 3, x plus 2. What is the acronym we use to find the product? What is it? FOIL. So let's do it. When we FOIL this simple basic pair of binomials, we get x times x, which is, and then we get x times 2, 2x, and inside we get, so 2x plus 3x is, and then last terms give us, good job. Okay, so as I told you back when we were FOILing and multiplying, we're going to ultimately go the other direction. We are going to start with this trinomial today, and we're going to end up with the factors of it. Okay? That's our goal. So it will start off a little bit complicated looking and then end up getting a little bit, making more sense as we go. Huge learning curve on this first day of doing it. Even in the first 5 minutes, there'll be a huge learning curve of you saying, what do I do? And then, oh yeah, that's what we do. Okay? So leave a rule box here. The rule is really kind of nasty looking at first when you haven't tried one. So leave about 4 lines. You may box this in. We'll come back to the rule, but we're going to go try one so that you can then understand the rule a bit better. Okay? So leave about 4 lines, and let's go here. Now, we're using this term B and C, so let's go back and look. Notice B is the number, the coefficient in front of the middle term, okay? And C is the final number in the trinomial, which is normally, often a constant number, right? You don't see an x next to it, so it's a constant. What do you think the letter is that will come in front of x squared? If we have B and C here, what letter would come here? A, good, A. Ax squared plus bx plus c. That's considered standard form quadratic equation. Okay, quadratic because of what? What do you see here? The exponent of 2. I wish we said squaredratic, but it's quadratic. Okay? So let's go here and factor when both the middle term and the last term are positive. Okay, so we know, or here's a hint, your first strategy will be, we're factoring a trinomial, so probably, most often, we're going to end up with 2 binomial factors. So we start there. Start with your 2 sets of parentheses. And today, the first day you've factored trinomial factors, the first term is always simply a variable squared. So when we FOIL this set of factors later, the first terms are going to give us x squared. So what must they be? X. Okay, so that's going to be the case today. We'll get to tougher, more challenging ones where there's a number in front of that later. So be thankful for today. Okay? Now, both of these terms, 8x and 12, are positive. Now remember, in order to get the last term, we get that when we FOIL the last 2 terms in these binomials, right? So something times something gives us 12, right? So what do we have? We could make a list, which is one strategy that helps when you're starting, and then as you get seeing the patterns, people often drop this strategy, but we can make a total list of the factors of 12. So the largest factor of 12 is 12 times 1, right? The next one down is, and then we would have 3 times 4, so we're repeating ourselves. So here's our little list. These are the possible combinations which would give us the product of 12. So when we're going to select the combination of factors that gives us the outside and inside sum of 8, the middle term. Okay? So which of these factors gives us the sum of 8. You see it? 6 plus 2 equals 8. So these are the factors we want to use. And we're starting off simply with positive terms, right? So both of the signs in these binomials are positive. Whoops, I'm a little out of sync up here. Plus 6 plus 2. Now, there's no question that we can determine whether we have the right factors because we can FOIL back, right? So when we do first terms, x times x, x squared. X times 2, 2x, 6 times x, 6x. 2x plus 6x is 8x, and 6 times 2 is 12. Very good. So we're looking at the factors of the final term that add up to the middle. Okay, the outside, inside add up to the middle. Let's go back and write this as a rule. This is a little tough because, as you know, when we write rules, we're using variables, right? So we have the familiar trinomial, x squared plus bx plus c. This is going to give us 2 sets of binomial factors. So it will be x plus some p, x plus q. And as we just said, p times q gives us which letter here? The c, right? So good. So p times q gives us the c. And p plus q gives us which term here? B, that coefficient. Because we have qx plus px gives us a certain number of x's in the middle. So we can say p plus q gives us b. Aren't you glad we did the sample first? It's so hard to understand these rules if you haven't seen it. Okay, so try it one more time on your own here and see what you can do. Again, start with 2 sets of parentheses. So the first term in each of these binomials must be y. Good, because we have y squared. Okay, and the last term is c. So we're looking for factors of 15 that end up adding up to 8. So you could start with 15 times 1, but you probably don't even want to write that down because what does that add up to? 16. So that's not going to help. So what are the factors we need? 5 and 3 or 3 and 5. That is a sum, gives us a sum of what we want, 8. So you could write plus 3 plus 5, or you could write plus 5 plus 3, either way, right? What property allows us to write it either way? Commutative property. Good, doesn't matter. Okay, let's go try it again. Oh, don't forget, we could FOIL it back. First terms, y squared.
5y, 3y.
5y plus 3y, 8, 15. So there's no question you know you have the right factors. Okay? Let's try a couple more of these GPs and come back and check your work. Okay, so the first terms in this number 1 must be x. Now, the good news here is the last term is a prime number. So how many options do we have for factors? 1 set of factors. And so 2 is the product of 1 times 2, right? Does 1 plus 2 add up to 3? So we can say 1 and 2. And when we FOIL back, x squared plus 2x plus 1x, 3x, and 2. We get back. Okay? How about the second one? How about somebody, Johnny, what's the first terms going to be? And then what factors of 10 add up to 7? Good, so plus 5 plus 2. Any questions? Okay, and Kyle, what are we going to have in our first terms here?
15.
Good. And what factors of 14 add up to 9?
7 and 2.
Good, plus 7 plus 2. Everyone confident right now so far? Okay, good. We can make it more challenging. Let's go with a negative in the middle. What if b is negative? Okay, so let's think about this for a second. We still will end up with 2 sets of binomial factors. But 6 the product 6 has a number of options for factors, right? If the product is going to be positive, but the middle is negative, what does that say about those factors? Say it, Matthew. They'd be negative. Could we have two negative factors that become a product of 6? Yes, we could. So we could have like -6 times -1, right? That equals 6. But do those factors add up to 5? -5. What do they add up to? That won't work. So what options do we have? Negative. And does that add up to -5? Yes. So what does that mean for the signs in these binomials? Both negative. -3, -2. Okay, and when we FOIL back n squared, -2n minus 3n gives us -5n. Our outside inside gives us -5n and a +6 for the C term. Yay. Okay, let's try, how about a -C rather than B? So in this case, we still have our easy little first y squared. What will be true of the factors of -10? What must be true of the factors of -10? Could I have this? 10 times 1. Will that give me -10? No, one of them must be negative. It has to be this or this. And now when I sum those up, do I get the middle of 3? What do I get when I have 10 plus -1? What? This is 9 and this one -9, right? So that doesn't work. So what must the factors be? -2 and +5, she says. Okay, so -2 plus 5, she says, is 3. So we know 5 and 2, the difference of those two numbers is 3. You can look at it as a difference. We end up subtracting to get the middle terms. So we're going to have a +5 and a -3. Okay, and if you FOIL that, y squared -3, oh, I'm sorry, 2. Wrote it wrong, didn't add up. +5 gives you the 3. There it is, and -10. I put the sum instead of the factor. Okay. Okay, so let's try these, and you'll probably need to pause the video. I've only got a couple minutes left on it, so pause and come back and check your work. Okay, so when we have a prime number in the C place, we have only one possible set of factors. And because it's positive, and the middle term is negative, what does that say, John? Both of them will be negative. Negative times a negative gives you a positive. And so how would you write this? What are the factors of 3? 1 and 3. And so do you get -3 and -1 add up to -4? Good. Okay. How about this set here? Vivian, what will the first terms be? Okay, and then we have a positive C, but a negative middle. So what does that mean for the factors of C? Both be negative. Good, both be negative. So what factors of 12 add up to -8? 6 and 2, she thinks. So let's try that. 6 and 2. -2t, -6t. Is that -18? Yes. And look at +12. Good. Okay, and okay, so pause and take a look at what we got there. There was an invisible 1 in front of that M. The B was 1. Okay? And now I want to try this one challenging one before you get off to work. So let's see what we can do here. We only have a moment, so let's do it quick. What will give us x squared in the first term? X. Look at the last term. 4y squared. And notice the middle is negative. What does that mean for our signs? They must both be negative to give us a positive C. Okay, so this factor gives it to us. And what do you notice about these binomials? They are the same. Square of a binomial.